lifeguard at Trail Lake, and within that question, do we have signage up that actually says that it is contaminated and there should be no swimming in Trail Lake? Sorry, Sean.
Go ahead, let Sean address it.
The health authority requires us to post the lake when it exceeds the fecal call from level of 200. And so we're obligated by health authority to post the lake at that point, and so we fall through on that.
And again, do we have, or is it staffed with a lifeguard?
Last year we had a lifeguard on duty at the beginning of the season, and that was to inform any of the visitors at particular camps that were going down and that was closed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jasper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last question for me on the lifeguard one. I guess it's the rationale for you staff, what the rationale was for the one that we're paid for going back to lifeguarding. If staff to elaborate on how they came to that decision.
So in terms of the 5 that were selected, those are the locations that we typically see the highest number of visitors. Those beaches are extremely popular. They have other amenities around them, related concessions, good parking access a lot of times, and other amenities. Some of them are just close to other popular parks. The areas that we did not include regarding going forward, I can read through some specific rationale related to that might be helpful. So Trail Lake, we've already sort of addressed related to the water quality. Second Beach, the coastal erosion that we've seen there has really scaled the beach back, and we're certainly seeing a lot of rocks in that area. So that area has become less popular. Sunset Beach, located right at the mouth of False Creek, it's close to the shipping channel. Again, it's a great spot for sunbathing and other activities, but not as popular for swimming. Spanish Bank West, West and Extension, extremely popular for land-based recreation, so we have a lot of beach volleyball happening there, sand soccer and other activities. And there's also an off-dish dog location over in that area. And Jericho Beach, it is is a nice area for swimming. And when we looked at the option between Locarno and Jericho, we thought Locarno was a better option, simply because of some of the other amenities and parking there next door. So it's an easy walk from Jericho.
Commissioner DeGenova.
Question for the committee chair to staff. I had asked at our staff briefing regarding whether or not the beach patrol or the Vancouver Police Beach Patrol had been consulted regarding this. And I was just wondering if you had any follow-up on them regarding the situation of cutting lifeguards on our beaches.
We didn't hear back from them on this topic yet.
But they have been approached.
Yes, we sent it out.
All right. Commissioner Jasper.
No, I'm just completely different questions. So
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On a different topic, I'm wondering if staff could, looking at some of the other initiatives, just elaborate on the elimination of free management positions by Twining Management and City Recreation Center. Again, sort of walking us through locations and maybe just give a bit of the rationale as to why that move was made and why we think it's a doable solution and won't impact the function and services of these community centers.
And so this is an area that we've been monitoring for the past few years. We've actually had some examples where we've had supervisors overseeing multiple facilities just close to here, the West End, Cole Harbour, and Barclay Manor. As an example that we've had where we've had one supervisor for quite a few years. So we've been monitoring this over the last while, and feel that we have developed a bit of a system and a way that we can make this a success. Certainly we have to make sure that we have the right supports in place, and we have the opportunity for complementing the 2 facilities in terms of program offerings and staffing and whatnot. So the locations that we looked at on the east side included Killarney and Champlain community centers, Renfrew and Thunderbird, and then on the west side, Dunbar and West Point Grey. And those are areas that we ran in a temporary situation for a number of months to see how it would work, and communication and consultation between our staff and the association partners. We determined that these were viable options that we continue.
I'm sure the follow-up, thank you. Just along the same line, I guess, wondering what Mr. Celia's opinion of the functional model that we have shifted to, if that is helped in that providing support to those supervisors, or is that change in our management structure had a neutral impact?
I think it's been helpful. I think, certainly we're feeling like the recreation group is in, one big team now, and we're all sort of, headed in a common direction together. And this model is certainly, with the twinning situation, is certainly along the lines of theme of collaboration and cooperation that we're trying to encourage more of, and sort of break down the individual silos, if you will, that have developed over time between our community centers. So having the teams work more closely together is proven beneficial as we're exploring some of these other efficiencies and opportunities for cost savings.
Commissioner DeGenova.
Question to the committee chair, to staff. I was wondering if the community center associations were involved in choosing the centers that they were twinned with, and how the twinning of the centers, if not, how did you choose, which centers were twinned with which centers, as no two centers are alike?
In terms of the ones that we've identified, we took advantage of vacancies that had come up in the system through retirements and some other movement that had happened. And we did look at the opportunity, basic criteria around location and neighborhood. These are locations that serve a lot of residents, and some of them have these sort of niche programming. So we wanted to make sure that we're, again, looking at an opportunity for complementing the two centers, as opposed to having two extremely unique areas that we were trying to we would have one individual supervising. So the association partners that we have in those locations have been very supportive, and we've been talking with them through some of the challenges that come up. And in the case of Champlain, for example, we have an additional programmer in that location to help ensure that we're meeting the needs of that particular area. And yeah, as we learn more about these opportunities and look to expand them, we'll continue with that approach.
I was also wondering, were they involved in the centers were they involved in choosing the centers that they were twinned with?
They were not involved directly in choosing to share a supervisor. That was a management decision.
Commissioner Jasper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to staff on the item recreation services, increased management span of control of consolidated clerk work. Control $766,000. I'm wondering again if staff could, if that, it does touch on here that has some linkages to ring fitness centers. I'm wondering if we get just a bit of elaboration on what that looks like.
Sure. And the role you're referring to is sort of the roll up of all the recreation options, but again, along the lines of increasing collaboration and working more closely together, we're looking at various operations, including rinks and fitness centers where we have staff that are working in both of those areas, and finding ways that we can have them work more closely. And again, we have vacancies that have come up in that group, and we're exploring the opportunity to sort of centralize the model and do more with less staff and management as well.
Through the committee chair to staff, I see that Park Services has once again taken a huge cut after 3 years of unrelenting cuts to park maintenance. My question to staff is, are we going to see our parks in worse condition this summer or better condition this summer? I see that there are some plans to have more efficient routing and practices, but that seems like a big number, and we've certainly seen a decline over the last 3 years. What do we expect to see this summer in our parks?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think that this year you'll see the parks will look just as good, if not better, than they did last year. And these cuts have all been in the management level, and as we have discussed in the past, we are doing a review of how we do our business, starting from the bottom up. And to this point, we've found some efficiencies in the management level. We're going to cut back 2 supervisors, which we found that we don't. It's not that we can get along quite well without them, because we don't have the old regional system. We're kind of putting the regions together. And 1 superintendent level that we're just matching up our superintendents with the work locations. So So basically, with that and finding different ways of we're proposing to get new equipment to be more efficient in our grass cutting operation. So what we're doing is that when we line up our superintendents with the yards that we're working out of, it's going to mean a lot closer supervision with them because our supervisor level is going to be, their role is going to change somewhat too, and be more administrative. And I think it's just going to make everything work just a little bit better than it was before. So in terms of seeing the park's condition will be similar to last year, next year it'll be better.
Follow-up question? Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to ask, I've heard a lot about grass cutting, and that's obviously an important part of our park maintenance. We also have a horticultural component in our parks, and my question would revolve around that. Will we see maybe a little more shine or a little more emphasis on the horticultural side this summer as we ramp up for the tourist season?
We're still looking at some of our efficiencies and some of the money we're going to save in our grass cutting operation is going to be going toward the horticulture side because that I see that as an area where we do shine and an area that makes Vancouver unique. And that's one of my main focuses to see that the horticulture side is improving over the next couple of years. It's going to take a few years to get our new system in line, but we're working toward the right direction.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Sharma?
Through Madam Chair and staff, I have a question regarding the one-time increase in fees, and that the savings of $250,000. I just would want a discussion from staff about what they mean by the fee increases and the reasons behind that.
So what we're talking about here, Commissioner, is normally we would raise our fees in the January and New Year. And what we're talking about is aligning that, so bringing it forward on a one-time basis. So every year from now going forward, those fee increases will happen in September for all of the items that the park board actively manages, brings schools, fitness centers, etc. But because that's only one time, and it will therefore further every other year be in the same time, it's only a one-time opportunity for us. So it's just bringing those fee increases 4 months early.
So just to follow up, there's no extra fee increases, just your standard?
No, it's just the standard increases that we'll be bringing forward.
Commissioner Jasper?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Review staff, picking up on park maintenance, wondering if staff can let us know what the feedback has been from our frontline staff on some of the system changes and some of the ideas that they'll brought forward, and hoping that overall a positive feedback. But
Well, anytime we look at any change in any government agency, we do get some pushback from staff. I have been working closely with the unionized staff, and we did set up some committees to discuss our three main areas: turf, horticulture, and arboriculture. And we had frontline unionized staff on those committees, so they're working through the process with us. Our goal is to look at our full-time staff complement and not to lay off any of those staff. That's what we're looking at right now. And certainly our cuts in the management is also, there's not going to be any net loss of any people. We have vacancies right now, so any cuts we make are going to be made through vacancies. So getting back to your question, the frontline staff, the ones that have been part of the committees are quite happy to be there and quite positive about it. We haven't talked a lot to the larger group as what we've gotten yet, because we're still working through some of the logistics and some of the details. But that's going to be going out very soon. And we're just like anything else. Once people know and you explain it through, I think that they'll understand what we're trying to do. And there is going to be some pushback. We understand that, but I think that we can work through that stuff.
Any more questions for staff? This is the last opportunity. Commissioner Sharma?
Through the chair and staff, in the report that you provided, you talked about spoke about it a little bit in the report, but about how overall there's an increase in our budget this year. And I think it was by, it's 103.8 million from 103.1. Could you just explain that a little bit?
Sure. So despite this proposal, which considers a total of about $2.4 million coming out, we are part of that $52 million gap that the city identified with our new parks and facilities coming online. So we require incremental funding to support those. So despite our budget proposals here tonight, our budget's still going up to accommodate incremental new things to the park board. I can just give a few examples like Hillcrest, Emery Barnes, the second phase, things like that that are incremental new facilities to the park board.
That's it for questions. Now it's time for the people to have a voice on board. I'd like to start with Paul Farrow. Good way to start the meeting. And Claire Nickel. Paul Farrow is president of PB15, and Claire Nickel is Vancouver Lifeguard Association. And I just wanted to, as always, recognize Ian Robertson. I bet he misses being up here.
Nothing.
We always do this for the election. All right. So here we go. We got your 5 minutes.
Good evening, Parks Board Commissioners. My name again is Paul Farrow. I'm president of QT Local 15, representing about 1,500 of your frontline staff in the community centers here in Vancouver. Pleased that we have an opportunity to talk. Unfortunately, 5 minutes certainly doesn't give us enough